All right, welcome to another episode of the New Labor Movement Show. I am one of your hosts, Troy.
I'm Ray.
I'm Ian.
Back for another week of local law, labor, and politics. All right, so let's jump right into it. I have a segment that we went out to. This was live on the scene, live on the scene recording of a rally that took place in in Brooklyn, New York, right?
That is correct.
So this
It was over down on 45 Commercial Street, over
Right.
in Greenpoint, right underneath. It was right underneath the Pulaski Bridge, basically.
That place sounds very familiar.
Yes, about a number of blocks that way, there is a huge garage on Page Avenue of an evil company we all call Spectrum.
Rectum.
Some call it Rectum. I'm just saying. Some do.
It looked like what they be doing must be rubbing off, because there was a rally we went to for Take It Back just shortly away from there, where they were highlighting some stuff that happened on some non up to code work that's happening down there.
Shine a light on them. 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 Shine a light on them.
Ray, I know you spoke to Joe a little bit about it. Can you tell us exactly what that rally was all about?
Well, what the rally was about is there was some. First of all, it's an open shop. There are some trades that are union, some of that are non-union. And what they were doing is there were people who were. There's a couple. There was some health. There was some violations with. There was a crane that was operating and it wasn't OSHA certified. There were wages being withheld from people. I mean, it was a regular smorgasbord of horror. You know what I'm saying? These guys were working during the pandemic, and then they got rewarded by this. Some of the people that were guilty were RNC, Top Shelf, Consigli, Brookfield Properties, SLG. These are the contractors, the owners of the building, et cetera, et cetera. Also, Gotham was doing the delivering, and they knew what was going on. Still,
Yeah, so I mean, and that happens all the time. Honestly, you don't see much more in the city where if there is like a non-union site and they're scabbing it out, that you're gonna say, well, I'm not delivering there no more. I don't think that really happens anymore.
Well, you know what? The non-union percentage of work out there is enough where if a lot of these places don't cater to them at least a little bit, they know someone else will. Unfortunately, it's a dog-eat world out there where they all listen. There's always someone willing to underbid somebody at the price of somebody at the expense of someone else. I'll hire a cheaper driver. I'll hire a cheaper worker. I'll cut corner. In other words, if that guy does it for 10, I'll do it for $9.50. That guy does it for $9.50. This other guy will do it for $9. It's almost like a race to the bottom.
And unfortunately, more and more people willing to race to that bottom just because they're desperate.
That is part of it. I mean, that's what happens when you flood the market with that kind of if you have such an overwhelming supply of labor, then obviously the price of labor is going to go down. If there was a ton of work, or there was a way to constrict the workforce, the price of labor would go up.
I think that's also a matter of culture, because the way you were looked upon as, say, a scab worker or
oh yeah, there's no shame in it anymore. Correct. Everyone looks and goes, look at how many guys do we have in our own shop? But I got bills to pay. And you'd ask them, well, what happened if you got fired? What would you do then? Well, I'd find a way to make it. And then you go,
why don't you do that now? Right.
And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Right?
All right. And that's what it comes down to. It is about it's a culture thing now, is how bad do people look upon this? And then some of it too, I wanted to look at. I wanted to get an idea from some of these guys as when people use this scab labor. So you got to figure out they're saving on what? The construction costs. How much is the cost that they're saving as far as building out that building and using non-union labor that's taking the money and pulling it right out the city. So it hurts the economy and it hurts everybody else more than they realize. It's not just about the guys getting hurt at that job.
Listen, a lot. Think about it. When we go to do jobs, like I said, I talk to the foreman. I'm friendly with guys, and we all are. We're friendly with people. And it's not like if you get a job and it's bid by union, local 3 for $1 million. It's not like the non-union comes in and says, we'll do it for $500,000. They come in and say, I'll do it for $975, $950, and then whatever they save in labor goes in the owner's pocket. And then what happens is the work winds up being usually so poor that they wind up stiffing a lot of the labor. But then think about it, all these places that have where guys are not getting paid, it's always non-union, because obviously you're not going to stiff these people if you're making money. You're probably stiffing them to make money because they're behind, they cut costs, the labor's terrible, you got to keep doing things over. You know what I'm saying? The quality is not there. I mean, like I said, Joe always says when you go in front of these non-union things, when you go in front of a union building, you hear bang. It's a racket. It's a racket because everyone's working. When you go in front of these non-union places, there's no work going on. Everyone's just kind of lolly-dolly and whatever because no one cares.
That was the question I had. How much profit are they actually making? So is it the difference between them making $500 million, and if not, they would have made 470? That's really the cost of them trying to. And it's not just the people that they scoring over one time. It is systematically wearing away at just the entire working class. Because if one person goes and does that job for less, it hurts the next person, and they just, like you said, race to the bottom. It gets lower and lower and lower.
But here's the problem, though. Once you get in that field, then there's always someone willing to undercut you. Back in the day when, in a lot of the unions, they all had their own clientele. Like, this company had these guys and these company had these guys. And then once they started going after each other's clientele, it's a race to the bottom, because then there's always going to be someone who's going to be willing to do the job for $1 less. And if you're the guy who's doing the building, it's in your best interest to try to squeeze out what you can squeeze out.
We need to keep
If I'm funding this building and I can save 3% on the building, think about it. You build something like a high rise. 3% could be millions and millions of dollars that's in your pocket. Some of these, think about it. Some of these projects, just the electricity, just one contractor on a large building doing 3 floors is like $2-3 million. And that's one trade. So imagine if you save 2-3% across the board. That's more money in the developer's pocket. And these developers, they're billionaire hedge fund guys. They don't care about anything because they're so above everybody that,
That's the thing, though. We keep a tally of their names and we keep their name out there and keep banging their name out there. There has to be a way to get them to stop from doing it, because they're the same people that keep doing it over and over and over again.
The way to get them, and that's the thing. It has to be like a culture change. Number one, you have to get people on board to understand that when these non-union jobs open up, it's not just those people in the job getting screwed. The entire city's getting screwed, and the workforce is getting screwed by the devaluing of labor. The way to combat that is in order to, change the culture and get people involved as far as the sponsors. So you got to figure out these companies that are doing this. You just named the 5 of them. Who are the people that those companies associate with? Who are the people that fund those projects? On top of that, who are the businesses that plan on going into these buildings after it's built? Do you think if everybody got together in the community, because we're hurting the community, and said, you know what, after this building is finished being built, we saw a rat outside, which means you use non-union labor, which means you hurt our economy, which means you took away from our basic way of life. Anybody who goes in that building, we're not going to patronize it at all. So if you want to build a building with 0% of people are going to patronize it, and we're going to find out who's coming into that building, we're going to call them and let them know, you go right ahead, but there's going to be $0 going into that building after it's done. How much of a difference you think that would make as far as these people still building out like that?
I think it would make a tremendous difference. The problem is you can't get the people, if for whatever reason, it's not something that the social justice warriors are willing to get. Think about it. You could say, they want to change the name of a museum in San Diego because it's the Museum of Man. People are upset by that. But meanwhile, you can't get these same people to get out there and say, labor's being hurt. And these are supposedly the constituents who care the most about democratic issues. And they're trying to fix things.
I disagree with that. I think they say both. They would say, "Oh, we need to get the labor," and the same thing about the statue. The real answer is neither one of them have any. Neither one has any effects.
Listen, it's amazing how people are always looking to fix things on Twitter. That they're looking for a solution that has no problem. Like tearing down statues doesn't really help anybody, but yet they're out there doing it. So I mean, it would be nice if we could get like. There's two ways, in my humble opinion, there's two ways you can do it. You either have to you have to constrict the labor force, which would mean, enforcing immigration laws, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And to me, that's the more permanent way, but it's too long and too hard. The other way is you have to make non-union labor as expensive or close enough to union labor so that when they realize that they're doing this to this and this quality of work, you're paying 10% more, but you're getting 20% more work or better product, then you do it, which is why we've been, all of us here on this page, and I'm sure everyone who watches this would love to have prevailing wage, and we couldn't even get it passed this year in this state, an overwhelmingly Democratic state, and they would not do it. And one Andrew Cuomo said he didn't want to put a halt on the boom in construction by paying prevailing wage, which is amazing. It's amazing you could be in this democratic estate and prevailing wage wouldn't be a slam dunk.
So just imagine, yeah.
Yeah, but there's a lack of information that's out there because people don't know what's going on. Take the strike, for instance. A lot of people still are not aware that the strike is still ongoing. They thought,
oh my God.
But
how many guys you talk to in Local 3, you're like, you guys are still on strike? And you're like, these are our own brothers. You're like, I thought that was settled. Like, no.
Same case in this. People don't know that these companies are doing things like this. They come off as they're nice, well-polished companies, but they're not. They're doing the things that they do, and they're robbing workers of pay.
Well, you know what? It's like, sorry. I was
gonna say that's why I think it's great to highlight it in places like this where it wasn't before, where we can reach more people. Because they had the rally out there. You had a couple of hundred people out there supporting it, but they're in the back of a dead end street where no one's going to. So how much exposure do you really get? And my thing is, if you start educating people and letting more people know about what's going on and how severely it hurts the communities that it's happening to, I mean, hopefully that will start to change people's minds and you get more support that way. And that's why I think highlighting it on shows like this and being able to bring like more attention to it. That's what rallies in front of the builders do anyways, to bring attention to the bad things that they're doing. I think doing stuff like this and calling out those bad actors that are part of it, hopefully will add some help to it.
Unfortunately, these kind of issues don't make the news because, reading in the paper that, another union got screwed doesn't sell papers. There's so many other things that are more sensational, which mean absolutely nothing. I mean, think about it. If we were there tearing down a statue of something, there'd be 75 news outlets there. The fact that we're there protesting, the fact that people have been taken advantage of and basically are going to be screwed out of wages, that,
Did you just watch something on statues? You keep going to that.
No, I'm using it as a for instance. Actually, you brought up statues, and I'm bouncing off you. I didn't bring up statues. You did.
No, I did not. But
you did.
We're gonna rewind the tape and go back and see that who brought up statues first. I think they say both. They would say, "Oh, we need to get the labor," and the same thing about the statue. But
just saying.
We want to make sure we mention those companies that are doing this, the job that they're doing it at, and we're going to keep an eye on it. We'll hear from Joe if we need to like spotlight anything else that's happening at that shop. Maybe, like we said, get the sponsors of those companies, the businesses that are going in there, start contacting them, and that's our segment of what we like to do: try to shine some light on them.
Shine a light on them. Shine a light on them. Shine a light on them. Shine a light on them. Shine a light on them. Shine a light on them. Shine a light on them. Shine a light on them. Shine a light on them. Shine a light on them. Shine a
right, so coming back, we're going to the main topic for the show. This one is right here, local in New York City, and we are going to be talking about the COVID crisis is hit everyone hard and throughout, of course, the entire U.S. And one of the plans that they had in order to help people stay that was having a moratorium on rent, which is now up. So the worry right now is the eviction wave that's going to happen behind that. So I know here in New York City, they looked to extend that moratorium, I believe now through August. It might go to September, but then now what happens after that? So let's talk a little bit about that rent moratorium.
Yeah, well, first of all, the owners of these companies, the owners of these places, they have to get their mortgage paid. They want to get their mortgage paid. So they're also behind. So if the government is not going to help both sides of this, then somebody's going to get screwed. And then more than likely, it will be the renters that's going to get kicked out because they're going to have to find a way to pay the mortgage. So they're going to have to bring somebody else in.
This is a big mess and a big problem. And this is what I said when they were planning for the health crisis, which I understand definitely, but it seems like they were just like neglecting or refusing to pay any attention to the economic part of the crisis that's going to happen immediately after that. I didn't understand it from the very beginning. Like even right now, you're going to put a moratorium for extra 30 days so they don't get evicted for 30 days. Like all you're doing is passing that bill, baby. At some point, that bill is going to come due.
But you know what they should have done is it's funny. It was a comedian who just said literally what you should do is just take 3 months or 6 months and just extend it. If you're in a lease and you had 6 months, now you have a year. And all you make people do is you don't want the banks to, because I hate banks, but banks are needed. You make sure everyone pays the interest on their loans, but the loans get kicked 6 months. So that way, because the interest is the money that the banks want. So in other words, you pay the interest on the loan for those 3 months, but you kick the payment. I had a lease of a car. Now it's been extended 6 months. I'll owe the interest on those additional 6 months, so the bank makes their money, and then I kick it forward. Because think about this: if you can't pay 1 month or 2 months or 3 months, and then all of a sudden, all right, you got to pay us 5 months, but you couldn't pay as it is. I mean, you're not gonna. If you couldn't come up with 1 month, you're not gonna come up with 5, 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. That money's not gonna miraculously appear.
The only way you could do that is you have to just push everything back. You're gonna have to do something to forgive this. I mean, first of all, they handled this all wrong. I think the mass closings were terrible. I think the way they've opened up has been terrible. There's been no thought about anything, and it's shut it down because everyone's afraid that that they're going to be sued or people are going to yell at them for opening up. Like
we getting into the crazy talk.
No, not the crazy talk. Real talk.
No,
Listen,
crazy.
There are some industries that did not need to close down. 100%.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
No. As you're learning now, you could have very easily had people who work outdoors could have continued to work, no issue. Yes, you need to close down restaurants and you need to close down mass gatherings, 100%. And what you could have done is you could have saved everyone a lot of time and a lot of money if the government would have said, listen, we're going to close your restaurant for 6 months. We're going to be the buyer of last resort. Show us how much you make a month. The government will pay 80% of that. And that way everyone stays as is. You give everyone a bump in on insurance employment, and then everyone can float it.
But
you need to close down all of these things.
I'm sorry, Ian, go ahead.
You need to do this mass close down because for the last 3 months, 75% of the people who've been getting sick have been people who haven't gone outside, who've been getting sick from being quarantined with other people.
Ray, there's a saying that's going to solve this. Coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Oh, agreed. Listen, you can't go back now. We're here.
All of us, nobody in New York or wherever the case may be, didn't understand how this virus was.
That was the main. By the way, that was the main problem. I think we were told it was going to be this, and then it turned out to be something completely different. I mean, think about it. We went like 2-3 months thinking it wasn't even person to person could get it. We thought you got it from touching something that someone else touched. So of course we're all sitting there in a train station like this. Okay, there's no problem, and people were getting sick on the subway.
No, even besides that, your concept of to me, your concept of that the strategy would still be wrong at this point, because you say like if it's just not closing, some more of the jobs wouldn't have to close, like the constructors open air. The point is a large portion of it would have closed. So all you're doing is helping a certain amount of people. You're not helping the overall cause. And then you say like things like if the bank would have kicked it and still got interest. No, the point that would have solved all of this, and I would have to have anybody tell me if it couldn't have happened, was to pause everything. Banks make no money. We're going to push everything out a couple of months. Nobody has
100%.
Renters don't have to pay rent. You guys don't have to pay mortgage, so you don't have to worry. Push everything out. The government, for you, it was strange to say that, the government fronts and pays the people, because I know that your party is usually supposed to be the physical responsibility.
I don't have a party. I have a platform. No, I'm teasing.
Okay, you say so. Okay.
No, but I would think so. No, again, the reason why I know, and normally you know me, I'm Mr. I don't want no part of government, but I would think that if the government's going to tell you to sit at home, then the government has to compensate you. It can't tell you you can't do business and then not pay you. Just think, if they would have shut down restaurants and paid those people from the beginning, that's where most of the infection is.
I say,
and nursing homes.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't like you just interject some of the parts that's opinion that gets me. You have no information that says the restaurants or the nursing homes. It was the most fatalities there, but those viruses didn't originate in the nursing homes. They're not going nowhere. Somebody bought them there. But that being said,
okay.
My main thing is also that it's the economics of it was not handled, because people, even if you say like, okay, pay them the money, it's not pay them their wages. If you paused everything out, the only thing they really had to do at that point was provide for people in order to be able to eat. And I think it's really, that's it. Because I would have paused everything. I would have paused your light bill. I would have paused everything out. Essential workers who have to go out get that plus some type of bonus, but everything else is on pause. And then that restarts everybody at zero. Instead, what they did was what? You have you don't have to pay your rent during this time, but it's building up. So now I've been out of work for 4 months. I haven't paid for 4 months. Now I'm going back to a job where I barely had enough to make it through 1 week without getting a paycheck. And you want me to catch up on 4 months of no pay?
Can't do it.
While the economy is already in the dumps. How is it?
I'm telling you, they're going to have to pass a bill that basically says, listen, if you can't pay, anyone's going to be wiped out. In other words, 6 months, and it cascades in such a way that if you think about this, if tenants can't pay landlords, landlords can't pay banks, banks can't pay other banks. It is a big issue. Think about it. You have stores that still aren't open. That lots and lots of stuff. I think we could have opened better. I guess, like I said, the best way to be would have been, obviously, you say 4 months, no one owes anything. Anyone who's been laid off, you give them the money for, like, as in unemployment, so they can get by. And then when they go back, it starts up again. And that have been the best way. But neither party did that. They all like, we'll give some money this way, we'll give some money that way. They all did it. They did it such a convoluted way that, like I said, Republicans pass a bill, their people get the money, then we get what's left. Democrats pass a bill, their people get it, then we get what's left. Neither one of them had the money get to us, because it had to go through these big banks. Why not do a direct payment where, you know what I'm saying? Like, in other words, go straight to the business owner. I forgot who it was. There was one politician who said the government should be the buyer of last resort, meaning that if you can't get a loan or anything, you show us what you were making. If you were making if your restaurant or your business was making $50,000 a month, we'll give you 80% of that. We'll be the buyer of last resort. And what that does is that keeps that business afloat.
I disagree with that. I don't believe any businesses should have been getting any money at that point in time. In order to keep it fiscally responsible and not increase the debt, what should have happened is if a business is closed, A business has to operate because the business has to pay bills like anything else. It generates revenue to make the owner profit, and it also pays its bill. If everything would have been paused and that store didn't have to pay any rent to anyone, it didn't have to keep the lights on, none of that stuff had to happen, then they're in the same position as, say, any other mortgage holder. So you pause everything on them and you send money to them directly, only to be able to pay their workers what every other basic person means in order to be able to, say, eat or so forth. And then if that's the case, the business has no loss by the time it starts back up. But what you did, you kept everything open. So now businesses had to continue to pay bills. Now we're in a 4-month hole, and coming back from it, and the customers who they had before, who they probably had to barely hold on to, are not even there, and you're expecting them to recoup. I mean, you're seeing right now where people getting their stuff put out on the street for evictions, and then the same thing is going to start happening to businesses. This is going to be a bad cycle unless someone gets a hold of this and puts a national plan in action that's going to be able to help this. Because the pause was never started, I don't even know if it could be done right now.
Pause right there on a national thing, because our national government, they can't even come up with a COVID plan. So they're not going to come up with a plan to help businesses and employers. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think our government is helping everyone. They're not thinking about everyone. They're only thinking about a certain selected few.
I don't know. It has to happen somewhere or another. All right. So, I mean, I think that's it for this show. I mean, everything going this moratorium. Hopefully our next episode won't be from out on the street.
Agreed. Hopefully when we talk again, a deal has been struck, and then we have immunity so the society can go on, and we have a moratorium so the average man doesn't have to worry about anything till the end of the year. Give them some breathing room so the guy can, so the average family can plan for themselves and try to keep their head above water.
It's not gang signs, it's fingers crossed, okay?
Same here.
All right. So that is another episode of the New Labor Movement Show. I am one of your hosts, Troy.
I'm still Ray.
I'm Ian.
And we're signing out.
Through time, we have to get everybody back involved in the movement, in your futures, in our futures. That's the only way we're going to win this battle, is to do it together. Solidarity! Solidarity is got to be the word. Solidarity! Solidarity! Normally we do a chant that says, "Who's the pig?" and then we say the name, but we're running out of time on this freaking job. Listen, there's five bad actors here, and people are being treated poorly. We're getting used to that, but we can't accept it. We have to make changes for all construction workers. Brothers and sisters, we can make that happen.